for the YouTube subscribers. Also subscribe already. Hit the fucking like button and subscribe before I knock your ass out, man. I ain't fucking with you, man.
UFC 271, Asanya versus Whittaker, Part 2, live from Houston, Texas, and back on pay-per-view. I'll be going over the main card like usual. You guys know the drill by now. We'll be going over all 5 fights, breaking them down, giving some lean, some free picks. A couple good fights on the main card, more top-heavy. Not the best pay-per-view card, especially when you're paying that $74.99 for some of you. So, yeah, not a very deep card, but we do have some good fights, definitely. Nice 4-1 client card last week, 2-0 in the main event. We were on the Strickland side. And the over 2.5 rounds. I did like Strickland to win by decision or late stoppage. He did get the decision win. Wasn't very impressive from Strickland, but he did what he needed to do, and Jack couldn't bring him down, right? Jack couldn't bring him down, and if Jack wasn't going to be able to bring him down and throw out his game plan, Jack would be in trouble and wasn't able to win on the feet. That's Strickland's game. Strickland's game is to just fight you like he is fighting and sparring in the gym, and that's what he was able to do. Use that jab very effectively, stop the takedowns, and win on the feet. Weekly update, guys. Let's get into the weekly update here. 64% best bets over 2 years. We have a best bet pending for this card. Best bet pending for this card. So go over to systemsportscapping.com if you want it. Over 40 units. Over 40 units now in a 60 and 36 all fights run. NFL 18-7 playoffs, guys. 72% carrying the regular season success over to the playoffs. Check out the NFL video if you haven't for the Super Bowl, guys. Go check that out. It is out now if you haven't already. Great NFL year as we expected. PGA, a small profit last week in the prop market. Over 64 units in the prop market long term. 69% best bets. NBA 67% season right now. Picking my spots in the NBA right now have been low volume over the past few weeks. Over 11 units on the year in the NBA. And NHL, 65% on the year. Lower volume, a few bets a week usually. Looks like the COVID issues and everything are, they're fixing now. There's not too many teams with those issues. So most teams are back to full strength. Let's hear from my friend Meredith before we get into this card.
Guys, Meredith Gorman here, and are you still not subscribed to Matt's channel? Well, if you're not, hit the subscribe button because he's giving out free picks each and every week. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
Guys, like the video. Helps me out a lot. Comment as well. Share the video with your friends and family. Tell a friend. It definitely helps me out trying to grow the channel. Shop around, guys. Shop around for best prices. These aren't the best prices. These are just the prices that I am giving out here on the graphic. Let's get right into it. Let's get into the main card, guys. Let's get into the main card. It's the 185 title shot. Adesanya minus 280 versus Whittaker plus 230. Part 2 of this fight, we saw Adesanya finish Whittaker in round 2, which I was just watching behind me, just to watch over again. This was about, 2.5, 3 years ago. Whittaker needs to come in this fight with a different game plan. He can't stand and bang. He can't stand and bang with Israel. That's Israel's world, right? He's going to have to mix it up. And Jan showed us the path. To beat Israel. Whittaker is the better wrestler out of the two, and that's what he's going to need to do if he has a chance in this fight. Try to wrestle, try to grapple, try to get against the cage. Now, we can't compare Whittaker to Jan. We can't do that, right? Jan's a lot bigger. He's a lot stronger than Whittaker, and he's a different weight class. So Jan's path was to get as heavy and strong as he can and just get this fight to the ground. Jan did okay on the feet, though. Jan did okay on the feet. Whittaker, sure he's the bigger guy than Israel, but we can't compare him to Jan. So don't think that Whittaker's just going to be able to take Adesanya down and hold him down. One, Whittaker doesn't fight like that. right? If you look at his fights, he's not doing that. Sure, he'll mix in a few takedowns, but he's not going to just hold you down to the ground. So I do expect Whittaker to try to get Israel down. Even if he does get him down once or two times, I expect Israel to get up. And he did show that in the Vettori fight. Adesanya did show his takedown defense and is able to get up in those situations. And, Vettori is a strong guy. He is a bigger guy than Adesanya. But Adesanya showed great get up in that fight. I expect Whittaker to struggle at times to keep Israel down, even if he does get him down a few times. We saw when Israel fought Vettori, like I mentioned, he was able to keep it on the feet, use the jab, hurt Vettori at times. And, Vettori just couldn't keep him down. I personally just think this matchup isn't great for Whittaker. Everyone has that one guy that they can't beat in their career. Whittaker, I say can beat anyone in this division, and most guys that he faces. But I do think Israel's a problem from stylistically. We're going to see how much Whittaker is going to wrestle and attempt to wrestle, and how much will his game plan focus on that. That's going to be the question here. I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see if he decides not to stand and bang, because I do think it's a bad idea. And let's see if he can commit to grappling and wrestling. That's going to be the big thing here, and I do think that's his best path. If he can go for takedowns, if he can kind of do a boring style chain wrestling, even though he's not that type of fighter, but he does have the wrestling advantage here. So if he decides to use that, he has a chance to win this fight. If he decides to stand and bang and make it a kickboxing fight, he's going to lose this fight either on points or even a late finish. I have to favor Israel here. I don't love the price at 280. You're going to have to get creative. Getting creative is finding maybe a 2-fight parlay. If you're going to look at an outcome here, I don't see I can definitely tell you it's not going to go only 2 rounds. It's going to be an Adesanya late finish or a decision prop. So you may want to look at the decision prop. I don't see him finishing Whittaker like last time. And if he does, it would be later in the fight, much later in the fight. But I do look at, Adesanya winning at points. I would lean that way. Lewis, back at home in Houston. Minus 190 versus Tuivasa plus 160. A classic heavyweight fight where we should see bombs being thrown. And, a KO somewhat early in the fight. I would be shocked if this one went all 3 rounds. If it went all 3 rounds, it would be because Tuivasa decided not to stand and bang and try to grapple. And wrestle, we just haven't seen that much out of him. Lewis at home again in Houston. It didn't go well. It didn't go well the last time, if you guys remember, for Lewis when he fought Gane at home. It did not go well for him. But this is a better matchup for Lewis. This is the type of matchup that he dreams about. Some guy that's going to stand and bang in front of him. And you would think that's how it's going to go. You think it's going to be an exciting fight like that. Tuivasa fights exactly like Lewis, right? Very similar. Heavy power shot. Doesn't really wrestle that much. No ground game from what we've seen in the past. And just heavy strikes. Now, it will be interesting to see if Tuivasa decides to try to grapple or mix in some wrestling. We'll see. We'll see. I just don't know if he's going to be able to get down Lewis. It's a tough task to try to take down Derek Lewis. He's a big boy, right? So we'll see. We'll see. This is a big step up for Tuivasa, guys. You got to understand the competition difference. Tuivasa's fighting guys like Greg Hardy and Sakai, which are solid wins. Those are the two wins that I'm pointing out here that are his recent wins, and they're solid wins. It's just the competition difference is huge, right? Lewis has wins over Curtis Blades, Chris Daukaus, Oleinik, Francis Ngannou, and Volkov. So it's a big step up for Tuivasa. You're going to have to see if he can fight this type of fighter when it's a very similar fighter, and I would say Lewis has more power than him. This way this fight should be a stand and bang type of affair. Anyone could get KO'd. So when it's these two just throwing bombs at each other, it's tough, right? We don't really see Lewis get knocked out flat. It's more, someone maybe mix up some grappling, some wrestling, and maybe get a TKO type of finish. I don't remember the last time I've seen Derek Lewis get knocked out flat on his feet. So if there is a finish here, it could be more of a TKO finish for Tuivasa if he's able to get to the ground. But I don't see it happening, guys. I see Lewis avoiding an 0-2 Houston record here recently. And I do see Lewis finding a finish, maybe first round, maybe even into the second round. But I expect Lewis to find his way, stand and bang. I do think Tuivasa decides to stand and bang, which won't be the best idea for him. Next fight here, which I do think should be the co-main, but I get it. Puts the heavyweight boys up. It is Lewis's hometown. Get him there in the co-main. We got Jared Cannonier minus 170 versus Brunson plus 145. I'm excited for this fight. Winner should get the title shot, in my opinion. Brunson, he is on a 5-fight win streak and looking as good as ever with a few big wins over Till, Holland, Edmund, Shabazian, and Heinisch. Now, if you look at all those opponents, they all have something in common. They can't wrestle. And Brunson was able to wrestle his way to victory in those last 2 fights to get the win. However, Cannonier can wrestle. He's a strong guy. He's going to be difficult to take down, in my opinion. Even if Brunson does get him down, I do expect Jarrett to make his way back up. On the feet, Cannonier has the advantage. He has the more power. He's the better striker. And Brunson, at times on the feet, he just looks sluggish. I'm sure he has maybe a one-shot power, but Brunson does not have a chin. He can go to sleep. And I just think this matchup for Brunson isn't great. If somehow Brunson can make this ugly and get it down and keep him down, sure, he could win. But I don't see any other path for Brunson really to win this fight. I expect Jared to be ready for the takedowns, and I expect Jared to win this fight. And eventually, hopefully, if Israel does win, Jared will get that title shot. It's just going to be the takedown defense, right? And I do think his takedown defense will be good enough. And I do think he could even catch Brunson and knock him out in this fight. Next fight here, Phillips. Kyler Phillips is back minus 420 versus Royal plus 330. You know, I don't get this price. Sure, Phillips should bounce back and win here. I do think he's better skilled over Arroyo everywhere. Maybe Arroyo's tougher and more durable. That's the only thing I'll give him. Arroyo does have 8 losses. Not impressed with his tape. I do think Phillips gets the win here. I can't be betting it at minus 420 though, so this will not make my client card. But if you're asking me for a play, yes, I do think Phillips gets it done and gets back in the winner's circle. We have a fun fight, guys. We have a fun fight to open up the main card. Definitely a fun one. Green minus 140 versus Hakaras plus 120. Bobby Green is back. Which is always a fun fight. I always like watching him fight. This should be a very close fight, in my opinion. So I do think there is some slight value with Hakaras just because it's a plus 120. I think this should be more Green minus 120, even a pick'em style fight. We know Bobby Green's coming off that nice win versus Eli Quinta, but let's face it, guys. Eli Quinta was 1 foot out the door. He didn't want to be in that ring. He did not want to be in the ring, and we saw a rare finish from Bobby Green. He does not finish fights, so that definitely was interesting to see. Bobby Green looked good in the Fiziev fight as well. We know Fiziev, he's being talked about as the next big thing in this division. He could have won that fight. He definitely could have won that fight. So he is fighting well right now, Bobby Green. Hasbrat's up and down, right? He's coming off that loss to Dan Hooker, where Dan Hooker mixed in some wrestling. I wouldn't be surprised maybe if we do see some takedown attempts from Green. But yeah, it's a tough fight, so I do see some value here with Akparas. But what I like is this fight to go over the 2.5 rounds. You may want to look at that, and or fight to go to the distance. Hard time seeing this fight not making the judges, or at least going over that 2.5 with a late finish. That will do it, guys. That will do it. Big pay-per-view card. Like I said, it's not as deep as I would like for a pay-per-view card, but we do have some good fights on the main card. So if you do order it, you should be in for a treat, especially on that main card. Guys, go check out the NFL card if you haven't already. It is on the YouTube channel already. If you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot. Systemsportscapping.com for full betting card. Get my best bet. You're going to get my best bet on this card and all sports along with the Super Bowl as well. So head over to systemsportscapping.com if you want all that. It is much appreciated. Client list is growing and growing. Client list is all over the world now, multiple countries. So I do appreciate you guys for that. Like I always say, guys, bet smart and know your limits. Take care.